I thought it might be interesting just to take a look at a loss that I had and kind of show how I learned from my losses and mistakes, and how show my thought process, I guess, behind what I did when I did it, and then why it was a mistake. And also maybe a reminder that it's important to analyze your losses, not just your wins, and not just to blame your loss on luck. This video is particularly around Magic the Gathering and my recent Arena Open matches, but it's applicable to any game or almost anything in life to analyze your mistakes or to learn how to get better. It's important. It's important to recognize fault and just to see what could be done better. So just getting right into it, the first mistake I made was very early in the match. We can see here the opponent plays a Skullport Merchant, and I very aggressively decided to remove it with a Fateful Absence. You can see my hand. I have 2 Fateful Absence, a Vanishing Verse, and a Bloodchief's Thirst. I have a lot of removal. I felt kind of rich in removal, and I thought it would be okay to burn it because I felt I could still answer incoming dragon. Was too aggressive of a play. Skullport Merchant isn't a threatening creature. The best thing it can do is use open mana and can generate card advantage, but at a cost. So it was a mistake to kill it. I just wanted to keep the board under control. My game plan at this point, based on my hand, was to keep the board under control until I could get Rampage of the Valkyries out. So I thought this was a good move, but I regretted it not long after. This was my first mistake. This one was pretty obvious, a pretty obvious mistake. I could have just held off. So I remove it, take my turn. Don't really get a lot out of it. Their next turn, they drop Moonveil Regent. I remove that with a Vanishing Verse. That I don't believe this play was a mistake. I just don't want a 4/4. I don't have anything really to deal with a 4/4 dragon. Ideally, I wouldn't have minded using Bloodchief's Thirst on it, but I didn't have the mana available to me, so I couldn't count on drawing the mana either. Which I think I do draw land after this, but it doesn't. It comes in tapped, so I do draw mana. I draw the Sinkhole, but as you can see, that doesn't help me with Bloodchief's Thirst on bigger creatures. So my turn is pretty ho-hum. It's just drop the land and swinging for 1. Just keep pecking at him. Opponent's next turn, Storm the Festival. So as you can see, Storm the Festival, 5 mana spell that lets you dig and pull out up to 10 mana value for creatures. So it's gambling, but you can get quite a big return. So I'll show you this next sequence of play and then break down the mistakes here.
That wouldn't be too bad either.
So as you can see, the opponent hit about as big as you possibly can. That's 9 mana worth of spells there. So they got another Regent and a Wrenn and 7. The only thing that would have made that better is if they hit Goldspan Dragon. Perfect 10 mana. I'll just let this sequence actually play out, and then we'll go back and watch this. So that sequence looks pretty clean, right? It doesn't look like a mistake. You watch Storm the Festival come out, and essentially vomit max value onto the field. So like that comes out and it's about as big as you can get. I answer the Planeswalker with an instant. And then as soon as I untap, I can answer that token with a Bloodchief's Thirst, and I can banish the other dragon. And just banish them from the game. So that sequence really almost looks like art, but it's not. So here's the big misplay here. And why this was too aggressive too aggressive of a use of my removal. The Planeswalker did not need to be answered with an instant. Ren came down and crapped out at the token and then wasn't going to do anything in -3. It wasn't going to do that again. It didn't need to be answered with an instant. And I actually even give the opponent a clue token for removing it. I had the removal in my hand to get rid of the dragon and the token. So I could have got rid of the dragon and the token and swung in on the Planeswalker with the Valkyrie I already had on the board. Had I done that, there would still be a Planeswalker. But it wouldn't be generating tokens. And you can see I drew a Vanishing Verse. I could still hold that or Fateful Absence in my hand. And why it would be great to hold the Vanishing Verse is you can see there are 2 man lands on the opponent's board. There's a Lair of the Hydra and what's the other one? The Eye Tyrant or My Tyrant, like the black man land. I could actually answer either of those if they pop them as a creature. So the opponent, after I removed the Planeswalker, the dragon, and the big token, pulls out a Goldspan Dragon. And I don't have removal to answer it because I spent it all answering all the other threats. Now, on one hand, it's easy just to dismiss this as like, oh, that's like a collected company or something. Like, it just craps out value. How can you keep up with targeted removal? But you see, if I slow played it just a little bit more and had a little more patience, I actually could keep up with this, and I could have got rid of that Goldspan Dragon at instant speed. So I go on to lose this match. The opponent, I hold off for a little bit, but I'm not drawing the mana I need to get Rampage of the Valkyries or Lisa the Forgotten on the battlefield. Either of those would help me stabilize this match greatly, but I can't get the mana. Opponent actually gets a second Storm the Festival off with Flashback at 10 mana, thanks to their Goldspan, and bricks. All they get is a Skullport Merchant. Had I saved the removal and got rid of that Goldspan Dragon, nothing on this board would be threatening me right now, except for the man lands. Lair of the Hydra, maybe, would be the biggest threat. But it's possible I would have time to foretell the Starnheim Unleashed, which I don't have time to do now, because I need to block, and I'm still not drawing land. So then I'm forced to, pop a small Starnheim Unleashed just to get one angel out to block, but it's just not enough. And then from there, of course, I did get a little bit mana screwed. I never broke off 4 land, but that misplay, if you're even looking at that board, there's nothing that threatening except the dragon. And had I been able to stabilize long enough to drop Rampage of the Valkyries, my creatures become removal, because anytime one dies, they have to sacrifice something. It's not that I would have won this match. I'm not saying like I could win it, but a different sequence of play, a more patient and measured sequence of play may have won. And I think it is It is interesting just to analyze that, because something that looks or feels good at the time isn't always necessarily the right play. Um, and I think it's pretty easy to just chalk it up as like, oh, what are you going to do? But the reality is I could have done better, and I should do better.